At some point, you stopped believing it. Your teen says, "I'm fine," and something in you, some quiet parental instinct you can't fully explain, knows that fine is the last thing they are. You ask how school went. Fine. You ask if something's wrong. I'm fine. You ask if they want to talk. I said, I'm fine. 2 words. A door closed so softly, you almost don't hear the click. And what makes it harder is that you can't argue with fine. You can't push past it without seeming like you're overreacting. So you back off and they go back to their room and you sit with the feeling that something is happening inside your teenager that you are not allowed to see. If that sounds familiar, I want to say something directly. You're not being paranoid. The instinct that tells you fine doesn't mean fine is usually correct. Parents are often the first to notice when something has shifted in their teenager. Before teachers, before friends, before the teenager themselves can name it. Trusting that instinct, even when your teen is actively reassuring you there's nothing to trust, is not overprotection, it's paying attention. This video is about what's actually driving that fine and what it's asking for, even if your teenager doesn't know how to ask. Here's the thing about "I'm fine" that most parents miss. It isn't a lie exactly, it's a strategy. Teenagers who say they're fine when they're not have usually arrived at that response through a very logical process, even if the logic is invisible to you. They've learned, through accumulated experience, that expressing how they actually feel produces outcomes that feel worse than staying quiet. And so, "I'm fine" isn't really about you. It's about what they've decided is safe. Here's the psychology of what's actually happening. Researchers call it emotional masking, the practice of presenting a neutral or positive emotional face while suppressing what's actually being felt internally. In adults, we talk about this as emotional labor, something we do in professional settings or difficult social situations. In teenagers, it happens in the most intimate relationships they have. A 2020 study published in Developmental Psychology found that adolescents who regularly masked negative emotions with parents showed significantly elevated cortisol levels, a physiological stress marker, compared to teens who were able to express freely. Translation: the body keeps the score, even when the words don't. Your teen saying, "I'm fine," while not being fine, isn't just a communication gap. It's a stress response. Their nervous system is working overtime to manage something their words won't say, and the reason they learned to do it almost always comes back to what happened the times they didn't. This is where it gets important for parents to understand. Teenagers are exquisitely attuned to how their emotional states land on the people around them, especially their parents. This isn't manipulation, it's hypervigilance. It's something that develops when a teen has noticed, over time, that when they share something hard, the response they get requires them to do additional emotional work. Maybe you got visibly worried and they had to reassure you. Maybe you moved too quickly to fix it and they felt unheard. Maybe the reaction was bigger than what they brought, and they left the conversation feeling worse, not better, having opened up. Psychologist Lisa Damour, in her research on adolescent girls, describes this as the emotional labor of managing a parent's feelings about the teenager's feelings. It's exhausting, and it teaches a very specific lesson. It is easier to say, "I'm fine," than to deal with what happens when I don't, so they don't. But here's where it gets interesting, and maybe a little uncomfortable. Most parents, when they sense "I'm fine" isn't the truth, do the thing that feels most loving. They push. They ask again. They try a different angle. They say, "You can tell me anything," and mean it completely. And what happens almost every time is that the teenager retreats further into fine. Not because they don't believe you, but because the pushing itself is part of what they're protecting themselves from. Every follow-up question, however well-intentioned, confirms to their nervous system this is a big deal, which makes it harder to bring out, not easier. The effort to unlock the door is the thing that makes the lock feel more necessary. And this is the paradox that sits at the center of all of it. Your teenager is simultaneously desperate to be known and terrified of the cost of being known. They want you to see what's underneath fine, and they're doing everything they can to make sure you don't. Both of those things are true at the same time. "I'm fine" is not indifference. It's a negotiation. It's your teen saying, "I want to let you in, and I don't know if it's safe to yet." The word fine is holding the door open a crack while keeping it mostly closed. And the only thing that widens that crack is making the opening feel less expensive than the hiding. I want to be straightforward here. Sometimes "I'm fine" is something that needs to be taken more seriously than a communication pattern. If your teen's "I'm fine" has come alongside withdrawal from things they used to love, changes in eating or sleeping, or language that worries you, even offhand comments you're not sure were meant seriously, that's worth acting on. You don't need certainty to reach out for professional support. You just need the feeling that something is off. Trust it. Try for a change to put yourself in your teenager's shoes. They're carrying something they can't fully name themselves. And every time you ask how they are, they do a very fast internal calculation. If I tell the truth, what happens next? Do I end up managing your reaction? Do I have to explain something I don't have words for yet? And so they say fine, not because they don't trust you, but because fine is the version of the truth that costs the least right now. That is an enormous amount of work to do silently, every day, while also being 15. Here's what I want you to hold on to from this. A teenager who says they're fine is not a teenager who has nothing to say. They have something to say that they haven't decided is safe to say yet. "I'm fine" is not a wall, it's a waiting room. They're in there, and the door is cracked, and they're watching to see if what's on your side of it will make the walkthrough worth the risk. Psychologists who study adolescent disclosure call this a readiness threshold. It's the point at which the safety of speaking feels greater than the cost of silence. You cannot push a teenager through that threshold, but you can, one interaction at a time, lower it. That "I'm fine" that lands like a closed door, it's still communication. It's your teenager telling you, in the only language that feels safe right now, that there's something on the other side of it. They chose to say it to you. They could have said nothing at all. The fact that they're still answering, even with 2 words, even with "fine," means the relationship is still open. They haven't stopped talking to you. They've just decided, for now, that fine is as far as they can go. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do in response isn't another question. It's letting them know the door on your side is open whenever they're ready, and then leaving it open without standing in the frame, watching. If this resonated, subscribe so you can better understand your teenager. And make sure you watch the next video, where I talk about the psychology of teens who lie to keep the peace, and why the lying almost never has anything to do with honesty. I'll see you there.